Hey everybody, how's it going? B Temple back again, and today we got something that I hadn't realized that I hadn't actually reviewed yet. So we've got a meal cold weather, which is a United States military, obviously, cold weather ration. And these particular rations have been around since the late 1990s. This is sort of the next step in the evolution of what used to be the ration cold weather, which is a very sought out cold weather ration from the United States that was used from 1989 up until, 1998, I believe was the last year that they stopped producing the RCW. I've done a review on the RCW, and it's a fantastic ration. I've had a number of these newer meal cold weathers, the MCWs, and they've been fantastic as well. I've had the beef stew, actually, so I have at least somewhat of an idea of what this is going to turn out like. But I realize I've never actually reviewed sort of either a standard American MRE that wasn't vintage. And really the only, modern American ration I've reviewed so far is my First Strike ration, which was my first review. And, I'm able to go back and look at that and realize that's, that was pretty rough, a couple years ago when I first started out doing this stuff. So what do we have here? Like I said, we've got a menu number 7, beef stew, meal cold weather. These are obviously meant for, cold weather conditions, Arctic conditions, whatnot. So the main meal in here will be freeze-dried as opposed to being a retort pouch, so that the main meal doesn't freeze in, these cold conditions. And these are created in such a way that you don't have a whole lot of liquid or anything like that within the ration itself. But on the other side of that, you need to carry an awful lot of water with you in order to prepare some of the items in here. So we'll open it up. We don't have a date code on this anywhere. So I'm not entirely sure what the year is, so I guess we're going to have to wait until we find out when we open it. First thing I have to say, obviously, before we open it, is this particular ration came from DANTHEMANDOTCOM, who's on MREinfo.com, and got a lovely pile of stuff from Dan, and very, very happy about all that. One of the pizzas that he sent along to me, obviously, was used in my my previous review. So I'm really interested to see what the components are like inside here and how everything sort of, works out. So let's get this opened up. It's got a peelable seal at the top. Sometimes these peelable seals open really well. Sometimes they don't want to cooperate. Not the greatest, but, at least it opened. I didn't have to get a knife. This is made by the Warnick Company. So remember, American rations are made by both the Warnick Company, Sepaco, and Ameriqual. So we've got a Warnick one. Empty out the contents. Nothing left inside. So what do we have? First of all, we've got our main meal, which is our freeze-dried beef stew. This is made by the Mountain House Company, which is where Rafco freeze-dried originated from. And this weighs 4.94, so almost 5 ounces on its own. And we're supposed to add, 16 ounces of hot water to it. Now, from someone who's had these a number of times, I normally don't put the full amount of water in there. 16 ounces is way too much. It makes it almost a little bit soupy. So when I go to prepare this, I'm probably going to put maybe like 12 or 14 ounces in there. Probably start with 12 and see how that goes, and do it that way. So we've got our main. For our beverage, we've got beverage base powder grape, which is good. That's actually, I'm one of the few people that actually enjoys the grape beverage powder, probably more than any other. We've got our standard US MRE spoon. We've got a oatmeal cookie chocolate flavored coating. This is amazing. They don't show up very often. This is one of the few menus that you still find this particular item to this day. Oh, I did forget to look at the dates. So we've got a date code here, 3319. So that's the 319th day of 2013. So it's probably a good chance then that this is a 2014 ration. Date code on here on this one is 315. So yeah, these are all made around the end of 2013, so it's probably a good chance then that this was all packed by 2014. Got an accessory packet, 3325. So yeah, it's all pretty well near the end of the run. And we've also got a spiced pound cake and a packet of toasted corn kernels. So that's going to be sort of like corn nuts, as they call them. So we've got all of our items here. What we're going to do is get it onto a tray, get our beverage going, and open up our accessory packet, and you know, get our main meal ready to go. So yeah, we'll be back in 1 second. So we got everything laid out. What we're going to do first is open up our beef stew main, and then get some hot water in that, because that's going to take a while for it to really heat through properly. You know, maybe at least 10 minutes. So we're going to need to give that some time. We'll just snap the top off. It's a very long hiss, so that's a good sign that the vacuum seal on this was, you know, pretty well perfect. We open it up, and what you see are, you know, chunks of potatoes, peas, carrots, chunks of beef. This one is pretty much, I'd say, my favorite freeze-dried main in any American ration. So I'm really looking forward to this. So we're going to run into the Keurig, just, you know, put 12 ounces of hot water in there, and then let it sit for a little bit. Now I don't have a sensible closer device, so we're just going to lay that back there and hope that it sort of does its thing easily. Next, I guess we'll get our accessory pack opened up, and our spoon, I guess. Just our standard MRE spoon. Got an accessory packet. Probably won't use much of anything in here, but we'll just open it anyway. So we've got moist towelette, creamer non-dairy, pack of matches, packet of sugar, a little sachet of Tabasco, some tissue toilet paper, freeze-dried coffee type 3, and a packet of, you know, 2 little peppermint chiclets. And they do look a little tiny bit beat up, but they should be still pretty good. So we'll get our drink ready next, I guess. So it's in the taller pouch, so we can actually mix this beverage in the pouch itself. It's got that, you know, wonderful artificial grape kind of smell to it. It gives you a fill line here that you fill it up to, so we'll kind of eyeball it and see what we can get. Maybe, probably like an ounce or 2 more in there than it should be. But I guess we'll figure that out at the end. We want to make sure this is really closed properly, because we don't need a big huge mess. Alright, we'll pour that out. So, oddly, this is from a time when the grape beverage powder actually looked at least somewhat akin to grape. Within a year or so, they switch over to a grape beverage-based powder, which is basically almost blue. Looks like a blue raspberry kind of thing, which I don't know why that's like this, but that at least looks somewhat close to what grape beverage powder is supposed to look like. Next, we'll open up all the rest of our items, I guess. We'll get our oatmeal cookie chocolate covered opened up. These are always fantastic, even when they're from vintage rations. You know, chocolate's got that nice glisten to it. This should be perfect. Look at our spice pound cake opened up. It's going to be a desiccant packet in this somewhere as well, I believe. There we go. We're not going to obviously need that. So yeah, it's just a rectangular slab pound cake. You can certainly smell the cinnamon and the nutmeg, things like that. Maybe a little bit of clove as well. Next we'll get our toasted corn kernels opened up. Try not to make too much of a mess. once again, we don't need to eat that. Now, I know not everybody is a huge fan of these toasted corn kernels, but they're actually one of my favorite, side items, kind of things like that. And they actually go really well with this main meal. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to giving this all a try. We're going to let the main meal sit for another few minutes, and then we'll come back and start giving everything a try. So I think enough time's elapsed now. We've got our beef stew ready to go. We're going to pour it out. And I tell you, this is just an absolute massive portion of food. One of the biggest portions you'll ever find, I think, for any sort of ration meal. Still a little bit in there. So yeah, for a main meal, for a ration, that is huge. I mean, it's 5 ounces on its own. Then you're adding anywhere from 12 to 16 ounces of water to it. I think, put 14 in there. So really, altogether then you've got, 19 ounces of food just on its own. And that just looks fantastic and it smells fantastic. So without any more delay, let's dive right in. So what do we have? We've got pieces of potato, and we've got pieces of peas and carrots, and there's just a lot of it. And chunks of beef. And yeah, it's got that nice sort of sauce, gravy kind of smell to it. So let's get a nice big old spoonful of a little bit of everything. Let's give this a try. Oh yeah, that's just perfect. Really hearty. And I mean, it's hard to say sometimes that something could taste kind of homemade, but for an American ration, this is one of the more closer to home tasting kind of meals you can get. Absolutely no complaints about that at all. Let's try our grape drink. And like I've said before, I'm actually someone who enjoys the grape drink. I mean, obviously it's a very artificial grape flavor, but it is something I actually enjoy. To me, it's a pleasant flavor. Some people hate it. As for the beef stew, maybe it could have sat for another minute or two. The potatoes, still, I wouldn't say they're spongy, but they're certainly not perfect. But at the same time, you're obviously going to get a different texture combination when you have a freeze-dried meal as opposed to something that's already, wet in a retort pouch. So for a freeze-dried meal, this is absolutely perfect. I mean, the beef pieces actually have a nice sort of feel to them. They're not too spongy. They're not too coarse. And nothing's really mushy. And the potatoes especially have a little bit of a dense kind of feeling to them. And the peas and carrots certainly have that kind of feeling as well. And everything has an identifiable flavor. You can taste the peas, you can taste the carrots, you can taste the potatoes. And it all goes together really, really well. But what also goes really well with it is corn kernels. Now we're going to try a few on its own, just to see sort of how fresh they are. But, like any sort of standard corn nut, this is what they look like. And yeah, these are just standard, plain, salted, toasted corn kernels, which are perfect. The right amount of salt, perfectly crunchy. If you like that corn flavor, then you're going to enjoy this. But what really goes well together, if you like different texture combinations, is a little bit of toasted corn kernel and the beef stew together at the same time. You're going to also get that sort of extra flavor of corn that isn't in the stew itself. You're going to get that extra little bit of saltiness. And yeah, that crunch goes along well with the texture of the stew itself. And yeah, that's really the only way to eat it. This is absolutely perfect. If anyone's ever tried it that way, yeah, absolutely recommend it. It's the best possible way to have these two items. Well, we really only got two things left, I suppose, aside from the gum, is our dessert items. Let's give our spiced pound cake a look. You can kind of get this sort of crystallized sugar feel on the outside of it. I mean, these are, almost 5 years old now, but they still feel perfectly fine. Not too dense. They haven't dried out a whole lot. Let's give our spice cake a taste. And that's just utterly perfect. A little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of clove, a little bit of nutmeg. I don't know if clove's in it or not, but you're getting all those sort of flavors together that normally go well together. Has kind of almost like a carrot cake kind of flavor to it as well. I mean, obviously it's not a carrot cake base, but it has a very similar sort of flavor profile compared to carrot cake. And you're also obviously going to get your sugar content there. And because it's crystallized on the top, you get a little tiny bit of crispness on the edges when you're eating, but still perfectly moist. It hasn't dried out at all. and a wonderful accompaniment to this. Now this here should hopefully be the star of the show, aside from the main meal obviously. But this is our oatmeal cookie, chocolate covered, and these are usually fantastic. So let's see if this, you know, stays the way it's supposed to be. And once again, overall, I couldn't have asked for a better combination of items for a ration. My favorite MRE beverage, favorite freeze-dried main, probably one of my favorite sides, one of my favorite desserts, actually two of, you know, maybe if I had to pick a top 5, 2 of my top 5 favorite MRE desserts. So, you know, this all together to me is pretty much the perfect freeze-dried ration. I couldn't have asked for anything better. That oatmeal cookie, chocolate covered. Obviously, this kind of chocolate is meant to be shelf stable, so it's a little bit waxy, I guess is the best way to put it. But the inside cookie is nice and crisp. It's got that, you know, wonderful oatmeal kind of flavor. Sometimes these can taste a little off, even when they're fairly fresh. You know, kind of has that starting to go stale kind of flavor to it. But yeah, this one doesn't have that at all. This one is absolutely perfect, as if it was made yesterday kind of thing. And it's obviously not made yesterday. It was made, you know, 5 years ago, almost 5 years ago. So, yeah, all we really have left, I suppose, is our gum. Let's give that a try. So we got our 2 little chiclets of peppermint gum. The gum was really weird, actually. I thought that it didn't look the greatest, and I thought perhaps it was going to be like incredibly hard when I bit into it, but it wasn't. It was perfectly, I guess, soft is the best way to describe it. But then the gum kind of turned into a powder at first, so it took a great deal of chewing to actually get the gum to sort of reconstitute itself into, you know, what we normally see as a standard kind of chewing gum kind of texture. So that was a little strange, and I mean, a very strong peppermint flavor, so I can't fault it on that, but just a really strange texture, and something off, I suppose, about the gum base, I guess, which made it kind of separate, and took quite a lot of work to get it back to what it's supposed to be. So, guys, this has been I guess, a somewhat short review of the menu number 7, meal cold weather beef stew, and this one was from, I'm going to assume 2014. Most of the components obviously are made in late 2013, but this one was probably packed at some point in 2014. I once again got to give a shout out to DANTHEMANDOTCOM for hooking me up with this, and can't thank him enough for it. I've also got some other items from him, you know, a halal MRE, standard MRE, and some first strike rations, and a few other, you know, odds and ends. But it's been great having this stuff. So we're gonna try to figure out now, I suppose, what is gonna come next, and kind of racking my brain if I should go vintage or go modern. But obviously, in the near future, hopefully as quick as possible, I can get back to you with a new review. So once again, as I always like to say, thanks for stopping by. Have a good one.